Yeah, this is North Central Texas Economic Development District Board meeting, and we are going to get this started. So I wanted to know right quick that we are recording this, and if you were shared this link and would like to be put on the distro list directly, feel free to leave your name, organization, and email in the chat, and then we can add you to that list. So we will be also after this meeting sharing the uh, presentation slides with everyone and the recording, a link to the recording. So for those non-board members, um, we will be allowing you to use the chat to ask questions in the future throughout the meeting. Those board members, feel free to um, raise your hand, let us know, and we'll see if we can get to you. So today, our guest speakers are going to be from the Texas Association of Regional Councils, and we'll be presenting on the Texas Regional Broadband Program, which is our statewide initiative for our internet services and trying to get those upgraded so that everyone has proper access to that. You know, this is something that's very important, not only for economic development, but for our workforce, for training, for education, medical. I mean, obviously it touches every field and every facet of our lives. And so we need to stay on top of that. And to that point, we're glad to have Tark with us today to share information about the program and how we can participate in it going forward. So again, as we always do, our presentations do tie back to the CEDS, which is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And before we get into that presentation, though, we do have a little bit of board business that we do need to take care of. Just know that because we are on Zoom, that will take care of our board attendance, so we won't be taking roll for that. Do want to, on the next item on the agenda, is to introduce our new North Central Texas Economic Development District board members. And then their bios and everything should have been sent to you earlier last week, but we want to make sure that we welcome all of them. First one on the list is Alex Phillips. He's the Economic Development Director for the city of Burleson. He's been there for quite some time, and he is representing Johnson County as a whole. We also have Judge Frank New, County Judge with Rockwall County. Thank you, Judge New, for stepping up. Jessica Rogers, Director of Economic Development with the City of Fort Worth, and she is representing communities with a population of 500,000 and over. And then we have Hillary Cromer, Economic Development Director for the City of Alvarado, representing communities with a population of 30,000 and less. Gabby Everett, Director of Business Operations and Strategy with BioLabs, and she is representing her company as the board as a principal economic interest. And then we have Kyle Kinnetetter. Kyle, are you on here? He's president and CEO of the Midlothian Economic Development Corporation, and he is here representing Ellis County. And then we have Miriam Castillo, Economic Development Director for the City of Ennis, representing communities of 30,000 and less. And last, but certainly not least, Michael Kowski, President and CEO of McKinney Economic Development Corporation, representing communities with a population of 100,000 to 250,000. So on behalf of the board, thank you all for stepping forward to work with us, in the future. You do have a treat coming in future months. I think we're ready to start doing an update on our sets. So that's going to be a fun activity. I was there for the inception and then for one of the updates a few years ago. So it's always good to see what all is going on and what the important factors are for all the other communities and counties within our region, and then to put that all together in one package. So it's great work, and it's very eye-opening. So that would be good. The next on our agenda is the approval of the August 4 minutes. So trust everyone's had an opportunity to look at those. Those should have come in a previous email. Our last meeting was held on August the 4th, 2025. And want to see if anyone has any questions or comments regarding those minutes. While everyone's reviewing that, would ask if you, when it comes time to make a motion, and second, if you would please state your name for the record. Sometimes it's a little hard to get that down as everyone is just speaking. So any thoughts or anything on that? If not, I'd certainly entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Erica
Motion.
Sullivan, I'll make that motion.
Second,
And-
Mike Grace.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Yeah, second, Mike Grace.
Okay. All righty. So all those in favor? Just give an aye.
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 Okay. All right. And several of you are using the little button to raise your hand there. Okay. Everybody good there? Do we have any nays? All righty. Looks like motion carries. So the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is our presentation from Tarrant. And so you should have also received their bios and everything in last week when everything came in. So we'll share, and this is a reminder, we will share a copy of the presentation and a recording of the meeting with everyone later this week. So you should get that in the email notification later. Board members, we ask you, if you have a question, just feel free to unmute to ask those questions after the presentation. And anyone who's not a board member, feel free to use the chat to ask questions. We have Shelley Hornbuckle that will be monitoring the chat box to bring your questions forward. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kimberly Lyle Dowdy and Alex Guerrero with the Texas Association of Regional Councils. Thank you both for joining us today and presenting the Texas Broadband program to us. So you should be able at this point to share your screens and unmute to present.
Well, thank you, Cassandra. And while Alex gets ready to pull up the presentation, I just want to say thank you all for being here today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk more about this really important and exciting project that TARC has been working on with the Comptroller's Office and the Broadband Development Office to utilize the structures that regional councils of governments provide in order to kind of aggregate all of the disparate work and planning processes that have been going on in the broadband space since before 2020, but especially kicked into high gear as a result of seeing what that digital divide was during the pandemic. And so this is obviously an incredibly important topic when it comes to economic development. And so we are thrilled today to talk more about that. I am remiss if I don't share that anytime I get the opportunity to speak to the North Central Texas Council of Governments programs, y'all hold a very special place in my heart. I am a born and raised Fort Worth, Burleson girl. My family is all still there. So thank you all for what you're doing and what you're providing in terms of economic development and quality of life there for everyone in the North Central Texas region. So I will turn this over. In case you don't know, my name is Kimberly Lyle Dowdy. I'm the Associate Director for the Texas Association of Regional Councils. We are the state association for the councils of governments across Texas. There are 24 in Texas covering all 254 counties. And we are a membership organization and are thrilled to be able to build this program for COGS by COGS, which make sure that the unique needs that each of you work with daily are able to be built into the program. And so you are able to be responsive to your constituents. So with that, I am thrilled to turn it over to TARC's Director of Regional Initiatives, who also happens to be the Local Government Services Director for the Panhandle Regional Planning Commission up there in Amarillo. So without further ado, Alex, I turn this over to you.
Thank you, Kim, for the introduction, and good morning. I just want to make sure everybody can see the slideshow and the screen, and can hear me well. So I think there's some nods and good deal. So again, thank you for the introduction, Kim, and I serve as the Director of Regional Initiatives with TARC, and so truly a privilege to speak with you all, and especially with this board, as an important role that you have in shaping the economic future of one of Texas's most dynamic and rapidly growing regions. So I think today just kind of want to set a bit of a framework that typically we are thinking about broadband as primarily as a telecommunications issue over the years, and the reality is that broadband has become deeply tied to economic competitiveness. And so when communities are thinking about transportation, utilities, industrial development, workforce systems, broadband is within that conversation, right? And so, broadband development is impacting business recruitment, it's impacting talent retention, educational opportunities, healthcare access, libraries, innovation, and really kind of that readiness tool. So today's discussion is really about how strategic broadband planning is tied to North Central Texas and how you can leverage that to kind of strengthen your long-term vision. So I will turn it to the next slide. So, why broadband planning matters to economic development. Broadband has become essentially absolute when we look at modern economic development. Reliable digital infrastructure is really no longer a luxury. It's become critical infrastructure. It's tied again to businesses, industries, and communities are increasingly relying on that every day. And so when companies evaluate locations for expansion or relocation, they are considering digital capacity efforts and readiness alongside your more traditional infrastructure readiness, like roads, water systems, power capability. So as you know, broadband affects nearly every corner of the economy, from logistics, manufacturing to healthcare, when it comes to remote work, when it comes to education, and entrepreneurship. And so understanding that, we know North Central Texas is especially significant because of how diverse and unique you are. You have, major metropolitan areas, rapidly expanding suburban communities. You also have rural communities. You have rural areas that all contribute to that regional success. And so, of course, with that type of diversity, there are kind of varying levels of digital readiness and challenges, right? And so this strategic broadband planning kind of allows the regions to address these disparities while creating more of a stronger alignment between your economic growth goals and future infrastructure opportunities. So really positioning yourself to be competitive. And so broadband strategy has become economic strategy. So let's get into the program itself before we get into kind of our future discussions of kind of what that means around workforce and education. The Texas Regional Broadband Program, as Kim stated, is created through a direct partnership between the Texas Broadband Development Office and TARC. And so this is designed to build that regional planning capacity across the state, directly working with councils and governments. So one of the important distinctions today is knowing that this is not a direct construction program. this is directly focused on planning, coordination, capacity building. And so the purpose of the program and initiative is to assist and support the council of government, participating councils of government in developing regional stakeholder engagement, funding, dedicated planning staff. So that way they can identify broadband gaps and ultimately produce a regional digital opportunity plan. This is a 3-year program. And so in many ways, this initiative is ensuring regions are strategically prepared for future implementation opportunities rather than just reacting after funding opportunities arise. This is truly a preparation and readiness tool. So this kind of sets the planning foundation as state and federal broadband investments continue to evolve. So by participating in this program, North Central is positioning itself to be proactive, collaborative, and more competitive for future funding opportunities. So why North Central Texas is critical because of both the scale and its economic diversity. Again, this region really represents one of the fastest growing and most economically significant areas in Texas. Your strengths in logistics, manufacturing, technology, education, agribusiness sectors. I mentioned this, it comes with its complexities as well. And so different communities in your region across may face different broadband challenges. You may have kind of underserved workforce populations or your small business corridors needing stronger digital integration tools. So, what makes strategic broadband planning so valuable here is really that opportunity to kind of unify all these voices, these entities under one broader regional strategy. So, rather than addressing regional digital opportunity in isolated pockets, North Central Texas really has the ability with the program to approach this as a coordinated structure, as a coordinated regional competitiveness initiative. So that level of alignment can create long-term advantages for growth. So not only for funding, but for resilience. So broadband planning kind of through an economic development lens. So for this board, understanding that economic development is really that core mission that the economic development district plays. And so broadband is, increasingly central to the conversation around competitiveness, whether we're talking about industrial recruitment, site readiness, downtown revitalization efforts, kind of these startup ecosystems, remote workforce expansion opportunities, and really that smart infrastructure readiness. Regions that fail to integrate broadband strategy into their development, into their economic development planning, really face kind of that risk and falling behind as being competitive. And so the program directly offers an opportunity to intentionally connect broadband planning to broader economic opportunities. Rather than treating this as a separate infrastructure conversation, this really is an integrative tool and a core business and competitiveness strategy behind that. So workforce development and digital skills, when we talk about workforce development, I would say this is one of the most, one of the clearest examples of why broadband planning matters. As you know and are aware, today's employers are looking at workers that have digital literacy skills. They have the technical competencies available, whether they have remote collaboration skills, whether they have remote opportunities, and they need access to those online learning systems. Everything is online right now. Systems are online, and so it's increasingly important that all residents have that ability, all residents have that access. And so this planning effort really kind of helps regions identify where these digital workforce gaps exist and kind of where stronger coordination may be needed among employers, workforce boards, educational institutions, training providers. Aligning broadband planning with workforce strategy can really help strengthen that labor pipeline. It can improve upskilling opportunities and again better position the region for future economic demands. So simply put, here as you see, stronger broadband planning supports stronger workforce competitiveness directly. So that's probably one of the most clearest examples I can integrate with broadband planning and economic development is that workforce tie-in and that pipeline skill. The next slide will kind of talk a little bit further on what these pipelines kind of integrate when we talk about educational institutions and partnerships between those two. As you know, are aware, educational institutions are probably one of the most important regional assets. So from K through 12 systems, community colleges, universities, they really play a critical role in shaping workforce readiness. The Texas Regional Broadband Program creates that opportunity to align those education systems. They align workforce boards, align yourself as economic developers in this space, and kind of allows that opportunity for a digital framework to be discussed. So in terms of what this may look like, this could look, to improve access to certifications. Again, work or remote work learning opportunities, workforce aligned digital pathways, really strengthening your institutional coordination. Broadband planning can help maximize your economic value and existing educational assets in the region.
Alex, if I may, on the previous slide, we've got
Yes.
our executive director for workforce, and she had something pertinent to that slide that she wanted to share.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Fedra?
Yes,
Fedra?
thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for bringing this topic to our board. This is super critical, and if I can just really quickly, I want to give an example that I just encountered the other day. So we're the North Central Texas Workforce Development Board. We went for an innovation grant with TWC. We have Plug and Play, which is a venture capital firm that is doing specific and great work up in McKinney and Frisco. Through our grant, we were able to bring this down to Tarleton State University, which is key because we want to do anything and everything that we can to spread our resources as best as we can throughout the 14 counties. But we recognize this moment in time at Tarleton because they have an innovation and entrepreneurship center that Dr. Iyer actually leads. And so this is all great. And I'll share really quickly, we just had Dairy Innovation Day at their agricultural barn at Tarleton. And why I'm saying this is because when we talked about with the ag agents who work with the farmers and the agriculture professionals out there, we opened up a question to them and we said, what is your biggest issue? And it's not necessarily about the innovation. They don't have easy access to broadband. And you just, it all just comes in this moment to go, the broadband piece and connectivity is critical because we will limit the workforce pipeline. We will limit innovation and entrepreneurship if we don't have broadband access throughout the entire state. And so that just kind of came as this big tidal wave of going, holy smokes, they want to innovate, they want to develop workforce so that they do have the tools and resources, but really they're flat-footed if they don't have access to broadband. So they're making strides, obviously, in our rural counties and communities, but this effort will in fact underpin all of the reasons why it is imperative that we have broadband access throughout our entire state. So anyways, just hats off to all of you for leading this work. And again, it's just a testimonial and we know it, but just to hear it and really knowing that this is going to make a huge difference to all of our our farmers who are trying to hold on to their livelihoods, right? To the future of feeding America. And if they don't have the means by which to do that and to be relatively stable and continue to grow and innovate, we're gonna hurt ourselves even more so in the long run. So just could not be a big enough fan regarding broadband, and so glad that you're bringing this to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And pleasure to meet you, and a great comment. Obviously, it ties exactly what we're talking about here, and completely agree to understand when we pipelines, we integrate our educational systems, we integrate our regional assets and workforce. And so, yeah, exactly. Access is probably one of the biggest challenges in integrating broadband planning into as more of a digital transformation. And whether that's agribusiness, whether that's it's really not specific to one industry, right? I mean, it really touches everything. So,
and if I can really quickly, I do take it for granted because we have ready access to it, and I will talk about it also from the rural healthcare perspective.
Yeah.
We also know that we have childhood development associate interest in our rural communities and counties, but when you have Collin College that offers it, or Campfire USA with apprenticeships, excuse me, it's great, but geographically it's not great. It doesn't work for those who are in Navarro, who are in Erath, right? And even more so if they don't have access to broadband to potentially remote into those types of classes, right? So, I mean, this is literally exactly on this slide is we have to make it available to people because this is the slope and the delta of those who can and exceed and those who can't because they're limited by the resources necessary. And broadband is really the underpinning issue to all of it. So, okay, I won't talk anywhere, but I get so excited about this because everything that we do, particularly in workforce development and all these partners, it really comes back to we all need a reliable broadband resource to be able to continue to excel and especially to support economic mobility. So thank you. Sorry about that.
No, I'm glad you made that comment. It kind of brings up a really good point in our partnership with the Broadband Development Office. I mean, a lot of the work that they are kind of charged to do is understand, as Texas, how big of a state we are, the needs and gaps and underlying issues and challenges. And through our unique partnership, we are, positioned and aligned to support the COGs to kind of continue that planning. So the program is designed to build that capacity level and build those help fund eligible activities that really understand these gaps and identifying barriers and challenges across the regions. And we understand too, not every region is built the same. But we do understand that broadband intersects with, like you mentioned, healthcare, telehealth, as that's evolved, as different businesses are looking to expand. And so it really is a statewide initiative. And the Broadband Development Office, they developed their Texas Digital Opportunity Plan built on kind of a statewide tour to really understand the needs and barriers. And this program allows the COG staff to implement that, right? So this is a huge planning effort and really is a huge name when we talk about the distinction between construction and the ability to use fiber. I mean, really, the ability to use it and adopt it and focus on affordability or access is because of this initiative. And so really excited again to kind of talk about that. So I'm glad you made that a comment. It brought up a really good point and kind of our partnership with the state. And really just kind of segueing into the next slide here. We also get to talk about P3s. I imagine in a lot of your conversations, public-private partnerships are key in developing kind of a consortium around being competitive, around projects, around really that collaboration piece is huge. And I don't think not one single organization can solve regional broadband challenges alone. And I think we all know that. This is why collaboration is such a central pillar of the program, because it helps strengthen are partnerships between local governments, internet providers, economic developers, EDCs, healthcare institutions, libraries. I mean, you name it. Everyone is involved. Everyone should be involved. Stronger public-private collaborations really improve that planning quality, and it enhances that long-term sustainability. And again, it positions and allows that competitiveness for future funding opportunities when you have those public-private partnerships in place. So for North Central Texas, really this model can strengthen your ability to coordinate around shared priorities and maximizing implementation success. So this is a huge collaborative piece, and this is probably a lot of the work that you are already involved in. I know as I heard earlier, kind of working on your SEDS development, I imagine this board has been in conversations to develop your comprehensive economic development strategy. And so that directly intersects with this work. And they all talk to each other. Again, this is a planning program. So this is a lot of the work that the economic development districts in Texas do already. So it makes a lot of sense for this to also be included. So how do we position North Central Texas for future funding? And what does this look like? So a really strategic planning today can really strengthen that competitiveness for future funding opportunities, workforce grants, smart agricultural investments, whether that's advanced manufacturing, especially AI infrastructure, and kind of building economy initiatives, really. I mean, as state and federal funding agencies are kind of evolving their programs for, fiber deployment, ultimately that's the construction piece. But how do we, help and design and assist our regions to become ready for that? This program establishes that foundation. And by investing and planning right now, this just better positions yourself for future growth opportunities directly. So this is how this program translates into potential future broadband investments that the state is evolving and creating, and also on the national level for competitions. So again, looking into kind of a regional competitiveness in the digital economy, as we're looking ahead, this touches nearly every major factor that we contribute to regional competitiveness. It influences business attraction, healthcare innovation, again, agricultural modernization, talent retention, quality of life projects, technology sector growth, regions that are developing stronger digital strategies are really attracting companies that are looking to relocate or looking to expand, capital investment projects, workforce talent tomorrow. And so that bottom line really is broadband planning should be viewed as a long-term regional competitive strategy rather than a short-term infrastructure issue. My belief is, even though we are kind of looking to deploy fiber, not only does that create challenges within communities, we also have the challenges and issues of adopting and using end device access for our educational institutions, as libraries are taking this as kind of their ability to support their areas, especially in your rural areas, and kind of underserved populations and vulnerable populations. So this is becoming a readiness tool to become more competitive in attracting those jobs, those upskilling workforce opportunities, and really kind of building out that talent and allowing them to succeed in accessing certifications that are needed. So again, broadband planning strengthens that ability. We've hit on this, but one of the kind of really core principles of the Texas Regional Broadband Program is community engagement. It's essential. It really needs to reflect actual community needs. And so that's why this is such a critical component. As I've listed here, engaging local governments directly, engaging economic developers, everyone coming together is crucial and a part of the program's initiative and missions. Regions really can develop stronger when that engagement is at the core. And so more inclusive digital opportunity plans that are grounded in practical readiness are going to be positioned for long-term success with this. Even though this is a 3-year program, we don't intend for the regional digital opportunity plans to sit on a shelf. We really want that to be a long-term vision that the COGs and the economic development districts utilize. So in closing, this regional broadband access and really depends on kind of strong local leadership. We have a bit of a call to action. I really have a kind of more intentional focus with this presentation. So for board members as yourself and regional leaders in your roles are incredibly important to this process. Your leadership is, can really strengthen that stakeholder engagement. It can elevate those economic priorities that you have at, first identifying barriers and building stronger support. It's no longer separate from economic development. It really is central to it, is how I can kind of put that in the best way possible. North Central Texas has this opportunity to not only participate in this initiative, but to lead it through strategy and collaboration and create that long-term vision. So that's essentially our call to action for this region, is to kind of build that leadership directly. Again, I've kind of rolled through this and touched on various factors, but I really just want to kind of thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment to regional progress. This program represents really an important opportunity as we're looking at North Central Texas, you already have an impressive economic foundation, but by building stronger digital readiness tools, and with this program, building that planning capacity, you're building a future competitiveness in the digital space. And so, again, thank you for the time. Certainly, I would love to answer any of your questions that you have. But yeah, this is my information here. If I serve as the kind of point of contact for the program. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to email me at any time. I would love to engage further. So.
All righty. Thank you, Kimberly and Alex, for bringing this to us today. As we can all see, this is something that's very important to any and all economic development growth and keeping our workforce and our companies on top of the heap, so to speak, and being out, very competitive in a world market. So this is the only way that you can pretty much do that, especially in some of our more rural areas. Please know that again, we're going to open this up for questions. Board members, feel free to speak up, and other guests, you're welcome to use the chat, and then we'll have someone watching that to bring your questions forward. So these slides and this information will be sent out through the distro list. So I've saw where several people have added their name to that list. If you haven't done so, be sure to do that before we close the meeting. So with that, does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? I did have one myself. I was just curious. I mean, we're talking about I'm assuming, obviously, the hard, fiber, in the ground on the land, so to speak. So how does, Starlink or any of the satellite situations play into that? And does I do know from experience in the past that there was significant latency in that as far as getting that information up and down. Is that more competitive and more in tune with what we're seeing on a, you know, a direct line basis, or how does that play into it overall?
Hey, Cassandra, thank you so much. It's a great question, but it's a little outside of the scope of this program. Alex and I are not broadband infrastructure experts by any means. And really, this program focuses less on that actual physical digging and installation of broadband services and more about creating those plans to provide those economic incentives, that data that providers need to invest in the infrastructure, right? So you may have seen Brandon had a question about hollow core fiber, that sort of thing. I would really encourage anybody that has questions about the physical infrastructure and physical technological availabilities to hop on the Broadband Development Office's monthly community roundtable. That's held at 2 o'clock the first Thursday of every month. So we have one this Thursday coming up. And while they may not be able to answer those specific questions, I know the team there takes those and uses that to guide their work to see what the interest is out there. I have put the link in the chat. And I know Prit shares that information as well when the BDO sends it out. So, not to dismiss your question, just to say, if I started speaking on that, I am completely uneducated and would be pulling from an unknowledgeable source of information.
Understood. So basically, it would behoove all of us to try to have a quick one-on-one on some of these different opportunities or different ways to get that fiber to our communities. Because there are different cost factors with each one of them, and what fits one community may not fit another one. It's just all part of that planning process and what budgets allow,
Yep.
so to speak, and what when you start asking for those dollars, what are all the opportunities on the table to get that access to people. So yeah, I think that Thursday meeting would probably be good for a lot of us that have needs in our communities to see what those different opportunities are out there for us, which ones we need to plan for.
Absolutely. And that call is a combination of local governments, those within the community who are active in the broadband digital opportunity space, as well as industry who are engaging in that in the ground installation of infrastructure. So, a really good place to hear what's going on statewide for broadband. Trying to see some other questions.
Yeah, Kimberly,
looks
there
like-
was one about broadband capacity concerns with the increase in data center developments, and
Yes.
I just made a note that probably that Thursday meeting would be the appropriate place for that. Correct?
Absolutely, but also tying back to this work, right? So, Craig, that question speaks directly to what the planning process, what creating your digital opportunity plan for the region looks like. If you have, just like working on your sets, this is an expansion of that sets process where you're getting those stakeholders to sit at that common table to identify what gaps they know are out there, what resources they've already created, and how those resources can be proliferated throughout the region to benefit workforce, healthcare, education. Again, back to Phaedra's comment, agribusiness. The understanding that there's a desire to innovate, but having on paper, black and white, ideas and resources about here's what we want to do. Here are the priorities as set by the group that will be working on this planning. So here's where we want to go. What do we need to get there? And ultimately, what do we want this to look like as driven by each of you and your communities through your work in the Council of Government and Economic Development throughout the 14 counties?
I believe Dr. Suki Nair has a question.
Yeah, so the question is for Kimberly and Alex. So when you mentioned about this P3 partnerships, you mentioned, Alex, you mentioned about the institutions. I did not hear universities. Is there any opportunity for universities to join in this partnership?
Absolutely, yeah. Universities, community colleges, I think they have a key role in understanding that pipeline of potential workforce and understanding that universities and especially our rural community colleges are part of the conversation. So absolutely to include universities. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I will ask this question now. We do have this Texoma Tech Hub, and that may have some aspirations to be part of this partnership too. So how do we go about doing this? One of you, should we reach out to you all, or what is the process?
I can take that, Alex.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thank you so much for that question. And I don't think that I can say this enough. All of this is regionally driven. So those within the North Central Texas Council of Governments region will determine who all needs to be at that table. So that includes universities, that includes your service providers. That is that regionally driven process. We at the state, or we with the organization as the administrator of this grant opportunity or this grant program, in concert with the Broadband Development Office, do not determine who you need to have at your table, because that is a unique regional decision. But I'm going to go ahead and, because I think this transfers nicely, there was a question about what does this look like from a state level. I can say that the work being done is there are templates that we've created to ensure that the questions that are being asked, the information that's being gathered, can be rolled up into a statewide plan, but it also is reflective of that existing statewide digital opportunity plan. So this is to say, here are the priorities that we have determined through the work, we being the BDO, have determined through the work that we've done over the years with our planning processes, but what does that look like on the ground? And I do want to commend the Broadband Development Office for seeing and hearing through that work and developing the Texas Digital Opportunity Plan, that there needed to be a more localized response. There needed to be a gathering of all of the players in this digital access and opportunity space to get together and say, what do we have available and what can we share? Because really that's what regionalism is, right? Not duplicating efforts, but finding those economies of scale and efficiencies within the programs that are already being administered, that are already available, that can be duplicated and expanded across the region, so that as one community rises, the entire region is lifted up.
And if I may, I'll just add to that. So we just signed the contract for this program on April 16th, and we're in the process of hiring an economic development coordinator who's going to be dedicated to this program for our region. So once that person is hired, we'll be reaching out to not just the board, but all of our regional stakeholders across all these different areas, public, universities, colleges, workforce, and all of that, to engage all of you on working on this plan. So that is coming.
Okay. Thank you both.
Mary?
And I think, Rick, just wanted to add, I think that, and thank you so much for bringing this information and this session. I'm excited to see all of us involved. But I just wanted to mention, I think that at this point, and maybe unsolicited, comment or 2 cents or advice, taking advantage of all the technical assistance, that this will bring to all of us, because this particular effort, I think someone mentioned that every city, and it's right, they're correct. Not every city is created equal, and I feel that this type of opportunities are going to apply differently to each one of our cities. And I just feel that right now, through the organization and just taking advantage of all the technical assistance that is out there for the future implementation, where all this infrastructure and all these technicalities come into play. But all of that just to say, thank you for bringing this up and sharing this with all of us.
All right, do we have any other questions? Anything from the chat box or anything board members?
I don't see anything further in the chat, Cassandra.
Okay. All righty, well, we'll move on to new business. And again, thank you, Alex and Kimberly, for bringing this to us, and we really appreciate that. Well, I'm sure be digging into this as a board moving forward with our update on the sets later on. So thanks again.
Thank you
New
all.
business.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So just want to remind everyone in the district that we will be hosting 2 webinars this month. And one of them is actually tomorrow, May 5th. It has to do with financing water and wastewater projects for small communities. You'll need to register for this webinar. If you did not receive that link, Britt, will you be resending that? I noticed we've had several people that have added themselves to that distro list.
Yep.
So
Cassandra, I'll put a link to both
okay,
webinars in the chat now.
good. Okay, good. So they'll have that for that. Okay. So and then the next one will be on May 14th. And this one has to do with the HUD presentation on the new opportunity zones. This will be the opportunity zones 2.0. Again, that's next week, May 14th. And again, that link for that webinar will be in the chat. This is a very important webinar for all communities. If you have, especially if you have some of your census tracts blocks that are in the opportunity zone, the Region 6 HUD administrator will be presenting this on how communities can submit tracts to the governor for consideration as an opportunity zone, which can provide up to 10 years of federal incentives to encourage private investment in those designated areas. So I can tell you, as someone who does have an opportunity zone within my community, it does bring in a lot of interest from developers and investors. So definitely something to have in your quiver, so to speak, when it comes to those incentives and those trying to woo those new investors into the community. So also, I understand, Prit, you have some information about the CEDS program on our new strategy.
Yeah. Good morning. Great to see everyone again. As you all know, our CEDS, our Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, has to be updated every 5 years. And so our next one needs to be completed by May 31, 2027. For those of you that have participated in the CEDS update in the past, y'all know it takes several months to do that just because of the sheer size of our region. So I just wanted to let you know that we'll begin that work probably around August of this summer. So please expect additional emails from me around that time, and I'll have further updates during our August 3rd meeting. But just wanted to give you a heads up that we'll begin our CEDS update work around August of this year, so that we can meet our deadline by the end of May of 2027.
Alrighty, sounds good. Okay, do anyone else on the board have anything that they'd like to share? Any exciting news or updates within their community? If not, we will be holding our next district meeting will be Monday, August 3rd, 2026 at 10 a.m. And other than that, again, no one else has anything to talk about. All righty. Well, we're going to call this meeting to an end. Britt, it is 10:56. So everyone have a great rest of your Monday and a great rest of your week. And thanks again to our presenters for the information on the broadband. That was very informative and something I'm sure we'll be using for that CEDS update going forward. Thanks, everyone.